What BlackRock did with Bitcoin could soon happen with Ripple XRP. And not only that, there are predictions for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies for the end of 2025 that are absolutely insane. All the details about this are in the video. The last few weeks have been, as you know, a bit intense, but I would say that's relatively normal for the cryptocurrency sector, and the news we're getting is more dramatic than what we've seen in the past. And if you've been around for a while, you know all of this. The amount of Bitcoin on crypto exchanges continues to decrease, and the same goes for Ether. Price predictions for Bitcoin and the crypto market are also rising more and more. Many analysts are adjusting their forecasts and predicting higher numbers for July, September, and the end of the year. We'll talk more about that in a moment. There are now more than retail investors haven't even caught up yet. And it refers to one of the big Bitcoin topics this year, namely reduced volatility. In the past, there was only a single record level and it didn't erase anything at all, so nothing was ever lost or removed. However, this time the circumstances have changed quite noticeably. Now, things are different because there is more than just one record level present, which marks a significant shift from how it used to be. Few analysts who think that this cycle could be like previous ones. Because if we reach a new all-time high in December, they believe that price dips will only be short-lived. Why? Because it's not just us small players in the market anymore, but now institutions, companies, and even governments are getting involved, all reaching for the same Bitcoin that some people might be selling. The amount of Bitcoin on exchanges keeps getting smaller. There are plenty of figures showing how much Bitcoin is being taken off exchanges and by companies, and that makes the supply deflationary. And in case you haven't noticed, MicroStrategy is buying so much Bitcoin that they're making the supply a few percent tighter. And they're not the only ones. Other companies are also accumulating diligently. And then there are the whales. These are the big accounts, not companies, but simple wallet addresses that buy 100, 175, or even 300 Bitcoin every day. They are currently hoarding over 300% more Bitcoin than is being newly created through mining. And the ETFs are getting involved too, especially those from the US. They're accumulating about 300 to 500% more than the amount of Bitcoin being mined. And the highest was, I believe, 11 times, that is 1,100% more Bitcoin than is being newly produced. And that's just from the US ETFs. The latest figures show that whales and the so-called sharks are accumulating over 300% of the annual Bitcoin supply, according to Glassnode. And what is that? The parties involved? The Bitcoin Reserve Fund? The whole point of the reserve fund is that prices can go up and down. But we have a perspective, Nigel has a perspective, that Bitcoin is expected to perform in the long run. And as volatile as it has been in many respects, we are not far from all-time highs with Bitcoin. But of course, we will be prudent in how we structure public financing. We believe that in the long run, if we don't do this, if we don't have Bitcoin in the sovereign fund in 30 or 40 years, then the country will be much worse off than it otherwise would be. It's going to get really wild, and I don't know if that ever stops mathematically. Just 2 or 3 days ago, some incredible news came out. In a single day, over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin left the Coinbase exchange. Normally, you hear that 80 million, 100 million, or 225 million in Bitcoin are leaving the exchanges, and that's across all platforms. But this time, it was just Coinbase with $1 billion. And I bet that on the other exchanges, it was also hundreds of millions because the whales really went all in there. And now imagine there are only two groups. One group buys Bitcoin and then withdraws it from the exchanges, and the other already had it on the exchanges and is now taking it off as well. And many people do this often, for example, sending Bitcoin to the exchanges to trick the market. It's supposed to look like there's more Bitcoin available to sell than there actually is. Just recently, $37 million worth of Bitcoin was withdrawn from Coinbase within a few hours. And not over the course of a single day, but within just a few hours. And this fits the current trend where more and more is being accumulated and also taken off the exchanges. And a research firm called Zanine or something like that, which specializes in cryptocurrencies, looks at the charts, for example, and analyzes the accumulation closely. And this also brings to mind Cathie Wood, who said that Bitcoin could be worth $500,000 by 2029. Then she revised her statement, saying that Bitcoin would rise to $1.2 million per Bitcoin and later even raised it to $2.4 million. All of this is because of this accumulation, or rather, the upcoming supply shock. And that makes sense. There is less and less Bitcoin on the exchanges because the big investors are buying everything up. The research firm has also given price targets for various cryptocurrencies. For Bitcoin, they see $370,000 by the end of 2025, for Stellar Lumens $7, for Litecoin $500, and for XRP between $37 and $50. In June, many are even expecting a decision from the US Securities and Exchange Commission on whether new ETFs will be approved and Litecoin could be included. Of course, there are also other forecasts for Bitcoin that say Bitcoin will reach between $130,000 and $150,000 per Bitcoin by the end of the summer and rise to $200,000 by December. Some analysts are even predicting $250,000 to $300,000 per Bitcoin in 2025 by the end of 2025, and for XRP they are talking about $10. It's really strange that despite all this accumulation and good news, some people still doubt where we are headed. But $370,000 by the end of the year, that sounds feasible, especially because the US dollar is getting weaker and weaker. And in addition, as we are seeing now, there are strong rumors circulating that Blackrock could apply for an XRP ETF after the legal dispute between Ripple XRP and the US Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, comes to an end. As the largest asset manager in the world, Blackrock would also have good chances here, as we have already seen with Bitcoin, of getting approval, which according to analysts' forecasts could drive the price of XRP up to $50. At the same time, institutions like WisdomTree, which manages $100 billion, and the crypto exchange Kraken are showing increased interest. In their analyses, they classify XRP as the only altcoin, alongside Bitcoin, suitable for long-term investment and recommend it as a strategic portfolio addition of around 4%. We'll talk more about that in a moment. And this whole thing with XRP, these recommendations aren't aimed at us ordinary people, but at companies, major players with hundreds of billions of dollars in assets. And if you are such a company, you don't talk to individual investors, but to governments, corporations, and also organizations that want to enter the crypto world. So why would a company go to the trouble of writing a report stating that, besides Bitcoin, XRP is the only cryptocurrency that truly has value? And we need to understand one thing. Many people have been stuck in this crazy crypto world for so long, but a lot of them simply don't get what Ripple XRP is really accomplishing. They just see it as a negative company, as a supporter of central bank digital currencies, and the CEO of Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, has basically supported an initiative that was against Bitcoin. Nevertheless, Ripple XRP has a lot of money, strong connections, and plenty of influence. And when the XRP price recently skyrocketed, people on Twitter were completely confused. They just didn't get it. Some even deliberately look the other way when it comes to news like the fact that central banks have long been using XRP. Do you think this is just about WisdomTree? You're mistaken. There's a lot more behind it. Let's take Kraken, the crypto exchange, for example. They released a report titled XRP is useful in a portfolio of digital assets. Their message: if you put 3.9% of your portfolio into XRP, your performance improves. Why would Kraken publish something like this and recommend that companies, institutions, and the wealthy put around 4% of their money into XRP? They even ran Monte Carlo simulations to show how XRP performs in terms of price, utility, and technology compared to other cryptocurrencies. And that's not a coincidence. If you've been in the market for a while, it should definitely be clear to you that a few cryptocurrencies would or will shake up the market. And I've talked about this many times before, and it's not so much an "I told you so," but more like, do you remember when I mentioned it back then? And if you think about it, you know exactly which three coins I mean. The ones that are now being snapped up by companies and institutions without even needing to be specifically named. That's why we keep hearing about how Bitcoin and Ether are disappearing from exchanges and companies are putting out reports like this. And in case you haven't heard yet, there's a prediction that XRP could rise to $37 by the end of 2025. That's absolutely crazy, and that's the path we're currently on. Not for us small fish, but for the big players out there. And I'm convinced that the excitement is mainly due to the possibility of a Blackrock XRP ETF. That means I'm incredibly excited to see what the rest of the year has in store for us, because so much is happening right now and a lot of it is finally becoming reality. Basically, everything I've imagined seems to be coming true now. The developments with Bitcoin and so on. Things are progressing much faster than I had actually imagined, and the level of acceptance is truly impressive. And I am convinced that this trend won't slow down anytime soon. There are even rumors going around and a lot of discussion that this bull market might not come to an end. That means that even if prices temporarily fall, especially towards the end of the year, the coins are quickly bought up again and prices rise once more. And that could very well be realistic, especially due to the increasing demand. And that means there are many positive developments ahead in the crypto world and for people who have invested in crypto. And to everyone who has been active in the crypto world for a long time, especially during the tough times, I want to say, just don't give up. Your perseverance will be rewarded because you invested and held on. You don't have to make any extraordinary efforts now, run a marathon or anything like that. You simply followed the news, paid attention, made the right investments, and now prices are rising and will continue to go up. And in this way, you will build the wealth you are hoping for. And I am firmly convinced that we will see many more such developments in the near future, because when XRP, Ripple XRP, moves so much into the spotlight, and I emphasize this because there are hardly any articles about Litecoin or other cryptocurrencies, it could be very, very good for our portfolios. In addition, we can currently observe a declining enthusiasm for Solana compared to last year when it was still present in all the news. In my opinion, this is because considerable amounts of money are now flowing in a specific direction, presumably towards Ripple XRP. In any case, I hope you find these insights helpful. If you want to achieve financial independence through investing in cryptocurrencies and want to know which cryptocurrencies I personally invest in, then click on the link in the description below the video. There you will find a free video with more information. Take action now.